We are live on SportsGrid with Game Time decisions. It is a Thursday night. I am Kevin Walsh. And folks, a reminder once again, you didn't see me yesterday. You won't see me tomorrow. Joe Ranieri holding it down. He does a fantastic job. But as we get into March, the weekends have come calling. And your boy's back in the saddle with Game Time decisions on the weekend right here on SportsGrid. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We are with you in the lead up to that noon college slate, previewing every single game from the hoops to the pro and college. We're going to touch on the golf, the NHL, baseball's around the corner. It starts this weekend. Game Time decisions, 11 to 1 p.m. So make sure you are locked in. And soon enough, we will be breaking down Caitlin Clark and her final season as an Iowa Hawkeye. I want to start today's show with the breaking news that Caitlin Clark has decided to declare for the WNBA draft. A very legitimately important piece of news if you are a WNBA bettor. Caitlin Clark is going to shift title odds. It would be stunning if she is not drafted first overall. I do believe the Indiana Fever hold that pick. That would be teaming up Caitlin Clark with Aaliyah Boston, which feels like a formidable force. It will move. Certainly, if these odds are, I'm not sure if they're out yet, but they will be moving. The WNBA title odds with the Indiana Fever getting a bump for Caitlin Clark. You're going to get, you always do, you're definitely going to get this year WNBA draft odds with Caitlin Clark being a minus 2,000, 3,000 favorite to go first overall. Her MVP price, I expect to be inside the top 10, and there will be specials markets that you have not seen before in WNBA betting because Caitlin Clark is going to the WNBA next season, confirmed today. Looking forward to see how she finishes out her career as an Iowa Hawkeye. Made some history again last night with another triple-double. She has been incredible, and again, one more season to go for her, this final season that which she is currently in. We'll open this up as we bring in our radio audience with you on a Thursday night. Sirius XM channel 159 all across the SportsGrid network. You are watching and listening to Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. We put eyeballs on tonight's NBA slate. A lot of key games we'll get to. What I'll tell you here, okay? OKC San Antonio, sneaky, very important. Chet Holmgren's been on a heater since the All-Star break. This is a must-dominate game for Chet if he wants any chance at taking Rookie of the Year off of Vic. It has to come tonight. I think Wemby could lock the award up tonight. If the Spurs were playing their first home game since February 3rd, we know the rodeo trip comes around. If they pull up an upset tonight, double-digit favorite, or double-digit home dog, that, I think, again, would seal the deal on Rookie of the Year. We did get the word Jalen Brunson will be in the mix tonight for the New York Knicks. So what was a 4.5-point line is going to drop down just a bit with Steph heading to the Garden. We've got the Lakers on the second leg of a back-to-back. LeBron James with one of the best performances any player has put forward all season long. How about that? Outscored the Clippers in the fourth quarter. And you folks with those Clippers futures, who cares? Paul George wasn't there. Oh, that's right. Because when the playoffs come around, you're certain they're all going to be there, aren't you? Good luck with that. But the main event tonight is likely here in Denver with an NBA Finals rematch. And the Miami Heat go to Denver catching 5 points. Now up to 6.5. The Miami Heat have won every game they've played since the All-Star break. And I got to tell you, folks, today I almost came on this show and gave out the Boston Celtics to win the Eastern Conference. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get there. And it's more to do about Boston than anything. But I got to tell you, you go through the Eastern Conference right now, and it actually, once again, feels like the most dangerous team for the Boston Celtics plays in South Beach. It is absolutely remarkable. But if Denver gets the job done tonight, let's say Jokic puts up another triple-double, this MVP price will continue to move. And in fact, I'm a bit surprised that the Jokic MVP price has not grown stronger. A triple-double in each game he has played since the All-Star break. Nikola Jokic is, at this moment, the consensus best player in the world. He is the reigning Finals MVP. The Nuggets are the reigning champs, of course. And I still feel that if Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets are able to catch SGA and the Thunder in the standings, and certainly if they're able to catch the Minnesota Timberwolves and the number 1 overall seed, you are going to see this Jokic number get to minus 250. This minus 140 number right now on Jokic is very bettable to me. I have a slight, look, we talked about this odds boost, preseason piece in Nikola Jokic. That to me was kind of a dabble, but I'm considering getting invested in this Jokic number right now. He is continuously winning over, I think, everyone. There are some still holdouts in terms of this year's award. I think that's because of that voter fatigue we see playing. I will add, because again, some people are trying with the Jason Tatum. It's okay. The Celtics are great. They are the best team in the league. Tatum's not the MVP. That's okay, okay? This award is transitioned away from best team's best player. We don't do that anymore. And if we did, then this Jason Tatum number would be in front of Giannis, quite frankly. Probably in front of Luka Doncic as well. That's not how the award operates. It just doesn't. And that's why this Tatum number sits the way it does. Let's move this over to tonight's college basketball board. It is an interesting 3-game slate with a ton of West Coast action here. USC is going to Washington State. The Trojans are playing good hoop. Right now, it's a shame they dropped that game to Colorado. All in all, it probably doesn't matter. I don't think there's any way for USC to climb into an at-large spot. It's nice to see them playing better basketball. They're the type of team you would love to see in the tournament. Remove Bronny James aside for a moment there. But Isaiah Collier and Boogie Ellis are the type of guys that, as if they won the Pac-12 Conference Tournament as a 12-13 seed, would be incredibly exciting. But the big games here from the WCC, Gonzaga and the Dons, and then you got St. Mary's and Pepperdine. So St. Mary's with a win would clinch the regular season standalone trophy for the WCC. That's on the line. Gonzaga would a win against the Dons, potentially clinch their spot in the NCAA tournament. It is a huge game. They're a 3.5-point road favorite right now over San Francisco. We will see how they hold up. I believe we're going to pop open our NHL slate here as we continue to give you an idea of what tonight's board looks like. How about Vegas and Boston? There's a couple of spots here that I'm going to be looking at. Tampa Bay is one we're looking at. We could potentially get involved with this Florida Panthers team and maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs. Still figuring out this NHL board tonight, but there's a couple of spots here. Wasn't involved on Tuesday, was not involved on Wednesday, but could be back on the ice tonight. Joe Madden once again will be with us here on a Thursday night to help us break down a big-time board. Let's put a quick pick on the board from tonight's NBA action, and that's going to be a little money line here on this NBA slate with the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are minus 120 over the Atlanta Hawks. The Nets are 9-3 against the spread as a home favorite. Forget the 1.5 point. Let's just take this minus 120 money line and beat up on a Trae Young-less Atlanta Hawks. We'll go do a lot more with Coach James Young next. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. I like to think I'm the host of this show. And then Coach James Young shows up, makes it all about him. Look at him. He's dancing off in the side box right now.
All about me.
You know what? I got to tell you, if I wasn't excited to talk to Coach tonight, I right now would do uninterrupted, full segment on my card and just have him sit there. And be like, I don't understand. When am I going to get tagged in? You're not getting tagged in, pal. But I'm going to tag you in, JY, because I'm in a good mood.
Handicap? You take it by yourself?
He knows how to win me over. He knows how to win me over. He goes right to the wrestling. He knows how to win me over. JY, you're back in a big way. Let's talk ball, JY, because you're on some college games here, but it doesn't look like the ranked board caught your attention as much. It looks like the local action has your eye. Talk to me. Where does your board start?
Let's start with Memphis minus 4.5 at East Carolina. Kevin, they have been one of the more disappointing teams during the year, but they seem to maybe have turned the corner. I was really impressed with that 76-72 win they had at versus FAU a couple nights ago. I think, listen, I don't know if they make the tournament, but they got 20 wins. So I think this is a good spot for them. They have to keep playing well in order to try and get a bid. If they're on the bubble, you don't know what they're going to do with them. Minus 4.5 at East Carolina, I think they win by 10 plus. Their defense is starting to ramp up. Give me Memphis minus 4.5.
All right. Look, the Memphis Tigers are a team that I fully expect to be in the fold. You know, I think it's very interesting, and I'm just going to pull it up quickly on Bracket Matrix right now, but they're not in here, it appears, on any of these brackets.
They got work to do. They have a lot of work to do.
Meanwhile, Florida Atlantic's a 9. I'm not sure about that. This FAU team's getting a lot of love.
They're getting a lot of love, and maybe it's based off of last year's run. But, I still think when we talked about this, I think before the season started, I think you and I both thought that Memphis was as good or better than FAU. This team's got 20 wins, so this is a big spot. I think that's why I said, Memphis has to win and win impressively tonight. I'm talking about them winning by 10 or more points. Oh, yeah. And then there's the look. Look at that local flavor, K-Dub. Little pork roll, egg, and cheese on a bagel action we got going on there with a couple of Jersey teams right there, K-Dub. Come on now.
Give me the breakdown. Give me the breakdown for the Monmouth game, JY.
Oh,
What's the deal? What are you doing with
the Iona Gale is going to be upset with this. Give me the Monmouth Hawks -6.5 on the road against a Hampton team. This Monmouth team has 4 times as many wins as last year, led by Xander Rice, King Rice's son, against a Hampton team that's just not very good. Now, here's the concern with Monmouth, is if you look at their track record during the year, they cover at home, they don't cover on the road. We're getting to the nitty-gritty. This team will not win the Coastal, but they could scare some teams, and they've beaten a lot of them at home. I think they go on the road and get the cover. Give me Monmouth -6.5.
And then JY Rutgers here makes the card as well against Michigan tonight in some Big Ten play.
Yeah, I like Rutgers minus the points. Listen, Rutgers has been, let's be honest, Kevin, they've been a disappointment, right? They've lost 3 in a row. They lost by about 20 points per game, but 2 of those losses are to Minnesota and Purdue, right? Michigan, last place in the Big Ten. Nakawa is out. And the good thing about Rutgers is they're really good defensively, particularly at the guard position. So McDaniel could struggle against those guards, and especially if he tries to get into the lane with Big Cliff down there. Give me the Rutgers guard in lanes, -7.5. Plus, it's very tough to play at the rack.
All right, I want to go to the ranked action tonight, but I want to take, because we're going to get to the NBA board in a moment here. I'm going to go down the route that I'm sure some people won't be surprised by, but that's talk about USC and talk about Bronny. Because the Bronny situation is very interesting. It's pretty fascinating, in fact. He was a projected lottery pick by people who do this for a living. I cannot stress that part enough, because there's a lot of people who act like that's not the case, who think that Bronny was going to be selected inside the top 14 because of who his dad is. That was not the projection. He was a McDonald's All-American on his own merit and looked to be one of the most impactful guard defenders in this upcoming draft class. We knew that. A legitimate shooting stroke. He had the scary incident over the summer. It derailed the start of his season, and he personally has never bounced back. Making matters worse, this USC team has wildly underachieved. Collier spent time injured. Boogie Ellis has not been as good as people I think we're hoping for. And as a whole, it has been a down year for this basketball team. So Bronny, in a 2025 mock draft done by Jonathan Givony of ESPN, was slated as a second-round pick. That is a very interesting thing, JY, because if Bronny's going to go in round 2, in 2025, he might as well just go now. That's kind of my thought on Bronny. I'm curious what you make of his current situation, the only player right now who we've seen odds booked on as it pertains to this year's upcoming draft. What do you make of Bronny James?
Well, it's been a struggle, but I can tell you this, K-Dub. I lost a kid I mentored to a heart ailment who died on the court. That is, coming back from a heart thing, you can't stress it enough, Kevin. Like, you're the kid's 19. He's gonna worry about it. Like, let's just call it what it is. It's a heart ailment. This isn't a rolled ankle. This isn't a bad back. This is a heart ailment. It's going to affect the kid. So to me, you have to look at the fact of how much of this is about Bronny being rusty, a lot, and how much the fact that USC is pure, complete, and total chaos. Forget Villanova. Forget Michigan. Forget all these other teams. USC is the biggest disappointment in the country this year, and it's not even close. They have the best backcourt in the country. They can't get it together. Enfield looks like he doesn't want to be there. So to me, this is a lot to do with what is going on around Bronny and his heart than his game. So as a player, as an executive, you have to look at Bronny's track record and say this. Going into this year, Bronny James was the best defensive guard in the draft. That's not my words. That's not K-Dub's words. Those were the words by draft experts. So in 1 year, Kevin, it doesn't go from sugar to you know what. You know what I'm saying? He's still got the game. He's just not in the right environment. And that needs to change. If he's going to be a second-round pick, you're right. Might as well come out now and start the clock, which then makes it a very intriguing because who then pulls the trigger to take Bronny if they think they can get LeBron as he starts falling down the draft board? I think someone will still go in the first round and get him.
So I think a lot of good stuff there, JY. The last thing you said, the Lakers will draft him. It is that simple. They're not losing him. I think they are making that abundantly clear. I can't stress that enough. As somebody that thought the Lakers trading him at the deadline made plenty of sense, the reason they didn't do that is they're dead set on keeping him. He doesn't want to leave, by the way. Okay? And it's not because... I don't need to stress myself out. These people are fools, and that's how it... Remember when LeBron showed up to L.A. to make movies and retire and then won a title his second year? Remember how dumb that was? Okay? LeBron has built a Laker legacy for himself. That doesn't mean he's Magic. It doesn't mean he's Kareem. It doesn't mean he's Kobe. His number will be retired by the Lakers. That's the reality of it, okay? And for LeBron, his number will be retired by every single team he's played for. The Heat, the Cavs should basically retire every jersey he's ever worn. But that's, and I don't mean number. Like if he wore a jersey, no one else should be allowed to wear that colorway. Doesn't matter. The Heat will retire his number as well, okay? For LeBron, I don't think he wants to run the risk of going to another organization and not being as impactful. I think he's happy to stay in LA. And the Lakers are going to do everything they can to make sure that that's the case. And if that includes drafting his son, that's what they're going to do. Because they're not it's not as if my dad was an all-time great and they drafted me. Ronnie can still play a little bit of basketball. I mean, I got a little post game. We'll break down the NBA next.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live with you right here on a Thursday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. I'm joined by Coach James Young. I mentioned him on the Brooklyn Nets tonight. I've got 3 other picks in the association. One game I've not bet yet is late night, which is Lakers-Wizards, and I just want to button it off since we were talking about LeBron. The reason for that is, with this being a second leg of a back-to-back, of course, you have to hesitate a bit on availability here, JY, but you do have a pick in this game tonight. What are you looking for, Lakers-Wizards?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a chance here, and I'm gonna go LeBron over 6.5 rebounds. Why? It is a back-to-back. I do think that he will be able to board. I'm concerned about the scoring, but man, does the Wizards shoot a lot of bricks, a lot of them. So there's a lot of opportunities for LeBron to get rebounds. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play his over rebounds of 6.5. He has hit this in, I think, 7 out of the last 15 games. But the way Washington shoots, I think he gets there. Plus, he's gone over it the last 2 times. Give me LeBron James over 6.5 rebounds tonight.
All right, there you go, little LBJ action. I will say, again, I want to see kind of where the numbers settle, but typically LeBron, off of the type of performance he had last night, it is under, okay? I'll say this as well. If LeBron plays and AD plays, be very careful on the AD props. AD, if you look up how does AD perform without rest, you see a lot of big games. But if you look at the 7 games he's played with LeBron, right, where neither guy is without or is both are without rest, a lot of unders for that PRA prop. So just something to keep in mind tonight with Anthony Davis. JY, I got to say, this is not something a lot of people know because, well, on this show you can't see the shoes I'm wearing. But I got a pair of Giannis's that I've been rocking recently. And you got to ask yourself, is that what turned around the Milwaukee Bucks? I mean, it's that or our bet on the live win total of over 50.5. This team looks awesome. Awesome out of the All-Star break.
Oh, yeah. How you doing? You play Joel Embiid, blow him out. Without Joel Embiid, I'm sorry, the Sixers. You play the Hornets, blow them out. Speaking of the Hornets, they play the Hornets again today. So I'm going to do something I went last time they played. Giannis, first quarter, over 6.5 points. Averaged 7.3 this season. 11 points 2 nights ago. Who the hell is stopping him on that team? There's no defensive stopper in the perimeter. There's no rim protector. Typically, Giannis will get about 8 to 9 minutes in that first quarter. He averages 0.8 points per minute. If he gets the minutes and doesn't get the fouls, he should get there. Giannis, over 6.5 first quarter points. I don't want to go over the entire game because last game, he didn't get there. Just take the first quarter and gets off to a good start.
I think it'll be interesting. I think, of course, it depends on, how close tonight's game is. I'll say with these back-to-back spots here, and I don't mean, of course, a team playing without rest, but when you double up with a team, I do think they often will give the losing side in game 1 a bit of an edge. This Milwaukee line still doesn't look incredibly tall. I think we talked about that. I don't know if it was, I think it was with Coach, but the Bucks-Hornets line, 14.5, as big as it was, it looked light it was. They won the game by 38 points. So the 11.5 tonight, it still looks a bit light, but I'm not running to the window. I'm happy as long as the Bucks win this basketball game outright here. One side you're going to lay tonight, JY, it appears, is this Orlando-Utah game. What are you looking for in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Utah. I'm going to go with Orlando minus the points here. It's 6.5, 7, so shop around, folks. Go ahead and find yourself the best deal. A team in Utah that is, I think, 1-6 against the spread their last 7 games versus Orlando team that typically is very good, particularly at home. Just had a blowout win versus the Nets 2 nights ago. We know Paulo may not be healthy. He's fighting some stuff. But I think you have a case here, Kevin, of the East is really jumbled right now, right? Seeds, even with Cleveland's loss last night, seeds like 3 to 8, I think they're like within 4 games of each other. You got to get wins. And Orlando's got the easiest schedule, I think, down the stretch of the season. I think they get the win. They win by 10 plus. Plus, last year, 6-18 was how Utah ended the year. They will start to go south quickly, and Orlando takes advantage. Give me the Magic plus 6.5.
There you go. Look, this Orlando team, as JY mentioned, is supposed to take advantage of an easy schedule. They kind of let one slip, right, at Atlanta. It was the second leg of the back-to-back, and the Hawks are waiting for them. They're playing some decent hoop right now in Atlanta. I'm fading them, as I mentioned tonight, but Orlando's got to be able to take advantage when it comes to games like this. JY, what about the Hawks, though, potentially player prop-wise? There is some interesting value for you?
Bogdanovich over 2.5 made threes. Now, here's the thing, folks. It's moving. I think it's minus 160. So maybe you want to play around and look at 4+ threes of plus money. If you want to play the juice, go 2.5. Over in 11 of his last 15 games, a Brooklyn Nets team that is struggling to defend. I think this is a spot where, if you look at it, Trey could get busy, and DeJounte Murray can get busy. So you can maybe correlate like Murray assists with Bogdanovich threes, because Bogdanovich just shoot a lot of them. I'm going to go Bogdanovich over 2.5 made threes. Like I said, over in 11 of his last 15 games.
All right, JY. And then another prop look for you is going to be in the NBA Finals rematch between Denver and Miami. What do you have in this game?
I got to go to my notes. Pull it up, please, because I just lost my notes.
A little Reggie Jackson action, JY?
Yeah. Oh, Kevin, how can I forget about Reggie? What is wrong with me? Reggie. I went over his points, rebounds, and assist prop yesterday. He didn't get there. So I'm going to go with just points tonight with Reggie Jackson. Over 6.5 points in his match versus Miami. I think Miami does a great job of taking away the number one scoring option. He has gone over 11 in his last 15 games. May be guarded by Terry Rozier. Not a strong defender. Miami not as good defensively at the guard spot as they've been in the past. Give me Reggie Jackson over 6.5 points. Low-hanging fruit of the night.
Joe, I'm curious what you think about Nikola Jokic right now and the MVP price. At minus 140, it is plus 210 on SGA, 5-1 on Luka Doncic, 20-1 on Giannis, 45-1 on Jason Tatum, and then the next closest player is 160-1. So much for all that Jalen Brunson MVP stuff. I don't like that. But I mean, hey, it was fun while it lasted, right? I mean, it was a really good time. We had a lot of fun.
Jalen Brunson dropped 40 points on the Warriors, so it'll move the other way. Yeah. But Kevin, in all seriousness, Kevin, why do I feel like it's going to be SGA? Like, to me, I think there is something called voter fatigue. We've talked about it. LeBron should have like 19 MVP awards. Shaq should have 10. Jordan should have 20. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but literally every year LeBron James could have been an MVP. Why did he not get it? Voter fatigue. So now you've had the same guy in the conversation in Nikola Jokic last, 4 or 5 years? It goes to someone else. And I think SGA, what he's done, particularly if he can find a way to get them to the 1 seed. Well, folks, they're tied in the loss column with Minnesota with 17 losses. And then when you look at the strength of schedule the rest of the way, they have an easier schedule down the stretch than Minnesota. I think if they get the 1, I really do think it should go to SGA. Maybe I'm the minority, but I think SGA plus 210 is where I would go.
I think I'll say this. So it's really interesting because it's voted on, and I don't know if the odds are just, I think it's more protection, right? I think the books are scared of voter fatigue, and that is why they so quickly shot Luke up the board, and it is why SGA is sat at the price range that he has been at for quite some time now. And it is why Jokic seemingly can't run away with this. But Nikola Jokic, and this is going to happen every time he plays on primetime, the Warriors game, the best example, he goes out there, it's 32, 16, and 16, and Wilbon and Kendrick Perkins, and who are, I think, both guys that actually vote on this award, unfortunately. Sorry, but it is. And they're like, I guess I'm going to have to give Jokic the MVP. Sorry, the Jason Tatum nonsense I made you sit through was a waste of time. I just think, and Jokic is getting better. Here's a false narrative The idea that Jokic doesn't care is not true. Just because he plays nonchalant basketball, or because he makes it look easy, or because, let's be honest, he plays slower and below the rim relative to Giannis, does not mean that Nikola Jokic doesn't care. You simply can't be this good and this impactful without caring. I think he knows a third MVP is in his sightline. And I'll tell you this right now. If Nikola Jokic, at the end of the season, has 3 MVPs and 2 finals MVPs, we're starting to talk top 10 player in the history of basketball. That's what happens, JY, if that's how this season finishes.
You're right. I would say this. If he does this, you may not talk about him top 10, but you may call him the most offensive center in the history of the game. In the way he impacts the game, right? 3-point line, mid-post, low post, bring up the ball off the break, passing, shooting, cutting. Everything that he does is amazing, and he will get the respect he deserves. And I think that's the problem with people. He doesn't do it in a sexy kind of way. He does it in his own way. And Kevin, it's pretty darn effective.
Yeah, he certainly does, JY. Appreciate the breakdown. We will be making it happen together on some weekend action for you. Joe Madden up next with the NHL slate.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live with you on Sports Grid. It is Game Time Decisions, and we go to the ice with Joe Madden. Joe, how are you on a Thursday?
I'm doing great, Kevin. We've got an absolutely loaded night out there on the ice. I'm excited for these games to kick off.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff here, and it begins, I think, in Boston with this matchup between the Bruins and the Vegas Golden Knights. Boston certainly, if they are at home, they are going to be booked as the favorite. This total sits at 5.5. How do you feel about Boston Vegas?
I'm terrified to take Boston here. I look at Vegas and their home, often ugly road trip. All of these games have been going to overtime for them, and I just don't have faith in them, especially where the books are putting them. I do think all of the value is on Vegas tonight, and I'm willing to jump on them here with that plus money. I know this team doesn't have Mark Stone. Jack Eichel won't be hitting the ice tonight, but I do think they have enough weapons out here to win this in a lower scoring game. I'm going to look at Vegas with that plus money, but I'm also going to look at this one to go to overtime. Not only have the Boston Bruins really been pushing games to OT, but we also look at the matchups between these two. Two of their last three have gone to overtime, and you're looking at the overtime bet here at plus 350. I think it has absolutely every chance of hitting in a game that I expect to be playoff style hockey out there between two of the top teams in the league, Kevin. So give me that overtime and give me Vegas with the plus money.
6 straight games they've played, I think, that have gone to overtime, 7 of 8.
Yeah,
how is that possible?
I don't know. I don't know. And they're tired legs out there. You've got to think returning from a road trip, it's never a good spot. And then you look at how many overtimes this team has gone through. It's a really hard situation here for the Boston Bruins. They need to get back on track, but I tell you, going to overtime, this is not how this team has to play. They have to start winning in regulation, and I'm not sure when it's going to come. And you look at that road trip, they went 1-3-4 on that road trip. It's just not a pretty spot here. So Vegas, they won 2 of the last 3 in Boston. They won in January in overtime at home as well, 2-1. They have every chance of doing it.
I will say, when it comes to the props, I feel like I can give people a lot of research. Sides, same. Hockey totals for me are all vibes. I do tend to like the over this 5.5, but be careful. It's a vibes bet, which is nowhere near as valuable as what Joe's breaking down. So, Joe, let's keep moving here through this slate. The Columbus Blue Jackets are a big-time home underdog to the Carolina Hurricanes here. Our total tonight is 6.5. How do you feel about this matchup?
You got to look at Columbus's team total in this one. The Carolina Hurricanes have been so strong on the defensive side of the puck, really limiting their opponents. And I'm a little worried about this one with Spencer Martin being announced, confirmed in goal for Carolina. But I do think the defense can do enough to stop the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now we look at Columbus, and they've struggled versus Carolina. Carolina has won 8 of the last 10, including that last meeting, 3-2. So really holding Columbus, limiting their ability to find the back of the net. The under 2.5s coming in at minus 128 for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they just don't have enough weapons out there, in my opinion, to take on Carolina. You look at Johnny Gaudreau, and he had a fantastic game in that last game out where Columbus scored those 2 goals. He was able to get a goal and an assist, but that being said, can he do it again here versus Carolina? I just don't think so, and I do think Columbus is able to get on the board, but just not more than two goals. So only 2 goals for them tonight in this one, Kevin. Carolina's just been too strong defensively.
There you go. Some low-scoring hockey potentially in that matchup there. The puck line, minus 110 on Carolina on the road in that matchup. Let's keep going through this slate here, Joe, and talk a little bit about a very close spread, which is spread money line, I should say. Detroit and New York. The Red Wings are a slight home favorite right now against the Isles. This total is booked at 6.5. How are you looking to bet this game?
Kevin, you just said it there. We have a slight home favorite in the Red Wings, and it doesn't make any sense in this matchup. The Red Wings have been so phenomenally hot. They have won their last 6 games. They've been so impressive out there. There is no reason why they're only a slight home favorite other than this line looks fishy to me. I do think the New York Islanders have every chance of pulling off this upset win, but with how inconsistent the Islanders have been, we haven't seen that huge bump with Patrick Waugh taking over as the coach like we all expected. I think you just got to look at the total in this one. If the Islanders are able to come out strong defensively, which we know they normally allow their goaltenders to be peppered, but it's Sorokin in net. Well, he doesn't have an overall solid number with a 3.11 goals against average on the season. He is a really elite goaltender out here. I expect in this one for it to stay under that total, and it's only because this line looks fishy. I think the Islanders have the chance of pulling off the win, and if the Islanders have the chance of pulling off the win, it means for me it has to be a lower scoring battle. It can't be one where they're trading goals with the Red Wings because they'll never win it that way. So give me the under 6.5 in a game that it's fishy, Kevin, I tell you.
Yeah, some low-scoring hockey potentially there as well. It was one of those spots, I've been telling people when it comes to the player props for me, I am typically just looking for a home favorite and a total of 6.5. So Detroit, it would qualify. I'd stepped way back from this game. It's such a short number. The juice is to the under. I could not get involved, and that there confirms it even more. How about this game with the Tampa Bay Lightning? They're minus 160 at home against the Buffalo Sabres. Another total booked at 6.5 here, Joe. How are you looking to attack this game?
Okay, I'm going to look at the first period in this one. I think you have to go for the first period over 1.5. That's coming in with a little bit of juice at minus 128. We look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're off that loss to the Philadelphia Flyers in a game they just didn't play well. The Flyers ended up beating them 6-2. The Flyers were at home in that one. And we know the Buffalo Sabres really do have a lack of defense, especially out there on the road. The Lightning looking to get back on track in this one. And while they're the favorite at home, I just don't like the juice that you're going to have to lay. I expect this first period to be a higher scoring one. I wouldn't be shocked if both teams were able to find the back of the net in the first period, but I do think it could also be the Tampa Bay Lightning who found the back of the net twice. So I do have confidence in that over 1.5 at minus 128. You could look at Stamkos for his 2+ points or Kucherov for his 2+ points. You're not going to get the value with Kucherov because he's been so phenomenally strong. You're getting him at plus 106. You're getting plus 285 for Stamkos, but I think both of these players have the ability to get those points on the board tonight, Kevin.
Yeah, again, it makes a lot of sense there, Joe. It was another one of the games I looked at, but I was struggling with some of these home favorites, so I do think I'll probably end up playing this total in the early game we talked about. But let's keep going through because Toronto was that fine. Again, for me, if folks just kind of want to, and again, whatever, but Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Florida were, kind of the home favorites with those 6.5 totals where some of those player props make sense. But there's a lot of expensive numbers there, especially when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs because they have one of the best players in hockey in Austin Matthews, Joe. I know you're going to look to play him tonight, though, and I certainly could see why. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, Austin Matthews is being absolutely lights out there on the ice, and I have to look at his goals tonight. Now, you're going to have to pay for that anytime goal, and I think you can look at him for 2+ goals in this matchup tonight. 2+ goals coming in at plus 440. He had 2 goals in the last meeting versus the Arizona Coyotes. It was a 6-3 win for Toronto just back on the 21st, and I think he has every opportunity of replicating that. He had 4 shots on net in that one. Now, Connor Ingram is in net for the Coyotes, and while he does have pretty solid numbers out there and has won them a couple of sneaky games, I still think Austin Matthews is just way too hot for him not to get those 2 goals on him. You could look at the hat trick if you're brave enough. You're going to get right around that plus 2,200. We know it's been a couple games since Austin Matthews has got that hat trick. He's been rolling so phenomenally strong. I'm not going to get greedy, though. I think the 2+ goals at plus 440 holds so much value. And then Toronto in the first period. You can lay the puck line in the first period, laying that half a goal coming in at plus 116. I can't get behind the puck line for the full game, though. The Arizona Coyotes actually play Toronto hard. They've covered that puck line in the last 8 in Toronto. I don't know if it's more the Coyotes really step up or Toronto plays down. We know that's the biggest struggle with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They play down to their competition, especially at home in situations like this where everyone thinks they can get the clear-cut win. So I'll look at them in the first period to win that puck line cover there, and then just Austin Matthews to be able to get those goals on the board at 2+.
I will say the last time Austin Matthews went 2 straight games without a goal, scored a hat trick. So, again, it certainly makes sense. Let's talk some money line, Joe, here. The Preds and the Wild, Nashville at home. Who do you like?
You got to lean on the Predators in this one at home. I think they have every opportunity of getting the win. And this does come down to Saros. He's been playing absolutely elite in net for the Nashville Predators as of late. And the Minnesota Wild are a solid team, but I just don't know if I can trust them in this one. They haven't played strong in Nashville, sitting 2-7-3 in their last 12 meetings in Nashville. I think Nashville comes out nice and solid. They've won their last 6. This team is rolling hot. 4-1 win on Tuesday versus the Senators at home. Battle of the Central here between these two teams. The Preds absolutely need the win to stay in playoff contention. They can't let the Wild steal this one. So I think we get the best out of them at home.
And then we've got the Vancouver Canucks here, booked as a home favorite against the LA Kings. Plus 162 on LA, minus 152 on the Canucks. Who do you like in that one?
Oh, Vancouver's been struggling, and I can't get behind them at this price. I think all of the value comes here at looking at the LA Kings, and I know they've had their struggles as well, losing their last 2. They lost that last game to the Flames. They lost to the Oilers, but I do think they can get the win over Vancouver in this one. This is the first matchup of the season between these two, and the Kings have actually played Vancouver really hard. They have won the last 2 meetings, which was in last season, but this is a battle of 2 teams that are struggling at the moment. Kevin, battle within the Pacific. The Kings sitting 4th. They're trying to get a playoff spot. The Vancouver Canucks sitting 1st. I think the Kings roll in and pull off the upset here in Vancouver. Great goaltending. So I'm going to also look at that under a 6.5. I think this is a lower scoring 3-2 game. If that, I could see it going 2-1 in this case as well, because we do have Demko and Riddick here in net for these two teams. So it's going to be a battle out there on the ice. I like the plus money.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of interesting options. One game, Joe, I don't think we talked about, but I'm just curious, is Chicago and Colorado. The Avs were on the little slump, and last when we talked on Tuesday, you said, look, it's a great spot for them against Dallas. They smashed the Stars, 5-1. Is there any world you could see the Blackhawks upsetting this team here in Colorado tonight, or the Avs just much, much better?
No, I can see Colorado pulling off the upset. The Blackhawks pulling off the upset over Colorado. I'm looking at this game and I'm kind of nervous for it. I did take the Blackhawks plus the 1.5 on the puck line. This is a strong team on the puck line at home, and we have a battle of the Central here. The Avs sitting 3rd and the Blackhawks sitting dead last at 8th in the Central. They absolutely want to get this upset win, and these teams do play again on Monday in Colorado, and I think that's where Colorado, you look at that extended puck line, in that case back at home, but Colorado's been inconsistent on the road. It's not a team, especially with their road puck line sitting 11-20, that I can really back here. You look at the Blackhawks, 18-12 at home on that puck line. Something tells me backup goalie here for Colorado tonight. You take the Blackhawks plus 1.5, a small sprinkle on that money line, and probably Connor Bedard for the anytime goal. This team is going to come out flying tonight, looking to take down one of the better teams in the division.
All right, there you go. A lot of great stuff there. A lot of big games tonight on the ice. Joe, we appreciate it as always. And Joe will be joining us for this weekend's Game Time Decisions to help us with the weekend hockey. Joe, best of luck.
Thanks, Kevin. Best of luck, everyone out there.
All right, great stuff. As always, coming up next, we'll check in with the little best bet from the morning crew. Next.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're live with you here on SportsGrid. I'm going to go through my card at the top of the hour. I've got 4 NBA picks. We are also, tonight, I mentioned I almost bet the Boston Celtics to win the Eastern Conference. We'll talk more about that in hour number 2 with Dave Sharapan. I ultimately pulled back. I don't know exactly why, but I did. I did make a college basketball future bet. We've had the 4 preseason national championship numbers that we've been rooting on, but I did today bet a team to make the Final Four. We'll talk about that as well within the upcoming hour. But before we do that, let's stick with the college basketball world. As I mentioned, Donnie Rightside is dialed in on college hoops right now. So let's see which side he likes in a top 25 matchup out west.
I'm going to back the USC Trojans with Andy Enfield. Why? Past 2 out of 3 games, beating Utah at home 68-64, losing a heartbreaker to Colorado, which had a big lead in double overtime, then beating UCLA on the road at UCLA, which means a good performance should be in line for us tonight as well. It's just a simple matchup here. USC does not have a great defense, but how about this, Ben? They don't care about you shooting the three-point shot. Well, how about this? Washington State doesn't care about shooting the three-point shot either. So let's cancel that out. Also, number 1 in the paint and point distribution for Washington State. Number 1 in the Pac-12. You know who's the most stingy team in the Pac-12 at getting points up in the paint? It's USC. Boogie Ellis and the boys come to town. We're going to take the 6.5 points with USC tonight against Washington State. How about that?
Appreciate the breakdown there from Donnie Rightside. That line right now, though, is moving against. Of course, that is the early line. Moving against DRS. I know he does not mind that. 7.5, 8 in the market on the Trojans. Look, Washington State has shown themselves to clearly be the second best team in the Pac-12. But USC was supposed to be the second best team in the Pac-12. They've not been. They've been terrible, but they've been playing much better basketball over their last 3. If not for a collapse against Colorado, they would be winners of 3 in a row coming into Wazoo. We'll see if they can keep it going. My NBA card is up next in less than a minute on Game Time Decisions. We're live through right here on a Thursday night, Game Time Decisions. I've got 4 picks in the NBA tonight. Pull back on the Steph Curry prop. We'll talk about that in a moment. But one of my picks, which is Brooklyn Moneyline, Davis Maddock is seeing it differently. So let's go to Davis Maddock. We'll get his full SGP for the matchup in Brooklyn tonight between the Nets and the Hawks.
All right, guys, we are back for another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Thursday night, we are going to take a look at the NBA. We have the Atlanta Hawks traveling to play at the Brooklyn Nets, and we're going to begin without Trae Young taking the Atlanta Hawks money line. The Nets are honestly, I'm leaving them for dead. I do not believe in this team. Fire their coach, reconfiguring the defense. Not a believer. I am a believer, however, in Dejounte Murray. I think he is going to do a good job filling in for Trae Young. So Hawks money line, we are also taking the over on 223.5. The Hawks defense, just pretty brutal. They really are just too small, and they are missing both of they're dealing with injuries at their center position as well. We're going to take Dejounte Murray to score 20 or more points in this game. And most importantly, we are going to take backup point guard, small forward Bogdanovic to make 3 or more three-pointers in this game. This 4-leg same game parlay is going to give us plus 573 odds. Hawks money line over 223.5. Dejounte Murray to score 20 or more points, and Bogdanovic to make 3 or more three-pointers. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, we're back with you right here on SportsGrid. So I understand the Hawks going in because Atlanta, of course, having won 2 in a row is going to get people interested. They smashed Utah. We talked about wanting to bet Atlanta that night. I should have, would have, could. It is what it is. By the way, radio audience in the Fold Series, XM Channel 159. I'm Kevin Walsh. It's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. But we got to be able to sell high, buy low. Atlanta has played 5 road games without Trae Young. They've lost 3, nowhere near covering in those. Their 2 victories I think it was like a half-point line in Miami. I think a half point, so pick them basically in Miami. And they laid 4.5 in Detroit, 1-6. This is not a team built to win basketball games, quite frankly, okay? They're the worst ATS team in the league by a lot. And the notion that they're going to string together their best hoop of the season, this would tie their second longest win streak of the year if they win tonight, okay? And they would all be without Trae Young. Brooklyn has been much better at home this season, 9-3 against the spread as a home favorite, 10-2 straight up in those basketball games. The Brooklyn Nets, for again, all of their struggles, okay, we saw them as a favorite in their most recent matchups to Memphis. And they won that game by 25 points. So I like this spot tonight for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm on their money line at -120. I'm on the over in the matchup between Oklahoma City and San Antonio. I think we're getting some partial value across the board, quite frankly, on NBA totals. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that it has been unders as it pertains to the NBA board since the All-Star break. But I think this is a nice one here, especially with San Antonio getting back home. The Spurs are coming off of a low-scoring basketball game with the Minnesota Timberwolves. We know that is the best defense right now in basketball, and they play plenty of unders. But the Thunder, for as good as they are, play a lot of overs. OKC is a fast team and a very efficient offense, and they should be able to abuse this Spurs defense. And at 238 here, we have the San Antonio Spurs booked as a home dog, 14-8 to the over when priced as a home dog, 64% of those games. So give me the over of 238 here, San Antonio and Oklahoma City. In the NBA Finals rematch, give me the Bam Adebayo 10.5 rebounds prop here. Pretty simple. Bam's missed this in 3 straight. He's 2-0 on the year, going into that 4th game to prevent a 4th straight game underneath this prop. And he's been really great rebounding the basketball on the road. 20-10 over 10.5 rebounds in road games this year. Average is 10.9 on the season. Sometimes, so we were doing a points prop, right? So if I had a guy at 25.5, take him down to 25, it makes the difference. But points, because you're dealing with much bigger numbers, it's easier to drop those halves. To go down to 10, which I was tempted by, you're paying -185, -190. It doesn't become as worth it. Maybe you could try and go to the double-double market there. Admittedly, I didn't look to go through that double-double market. Perhaps it would present some value. I'll check in on it, but I'm going to play the 10.5 rebounds here for Bam Adebayo tonight in their matchup with the Denver Nuggets. And then my favorite bet on the NBA board tonight, my best bet on the NBA board tonight, is Kevin Durant Over 2.5 made threes. First of all, this is an important game for me with the Phoenix Suns' updated win total here. They lost their first two. They beat the Lakers as a home favorite. Now they need to beat the Houston Rockets as a home favorite once again. Also, for the weekend, these teams are playing again this weekend. Why 3 of the first 5 games these teams will play out of the All-Star break are against one another is a little bit surprising, but it's what it is. But I like Kevin Durant here specifically to get over his 2.5 made threes. We're getting plus 120, which is absolutely fantastic. So what stood out to me since the All-Star break is 3 straight games of 7+ attempts for KD. On the year, when he attempts 7 or more threes, he's 11-4 over the prop. Now, that will include some high-leverage games. There's a game this season where KD attempted 15 threes, right? And if he's going to attempt 15, then I wish he'd be betting 6+, 7+, right? Let's go wild. 7 and 8, which is where he's been in the last 3 games. He's had either 7 attempts or 8 attempts. On the year, he is 7-4 to the over. But he's missed this 2.5 prop in all 3 of those games. That's why we're getting the plus money tonight. Well, what that means is prior to the 3 games that KD's played since the break, right? When he attempts between 7 and 8 threes, right? Because I don't want to even use the games where he shoots 9, 10, 11, right? He was 7-1 to over 2.5. And we're getting plus 120. It's my best bet tonight for KD, who has been unbelievable shooting the three-point shot this season, and especially at home. 2 NBA looks that I was thinking about getting involved with, and ultimately, by the way, we are playing the over 5.5 in Boston, Vegas on the ice tonight. 2 NBA overs I was going to get involved with tonight were Malik Beasley and Steph Curry. Steph is a bounce-back spot. 27.5 points is the number. But it's admittedly something I just didn't feel comfortable enough with because it just felt a little too chalky, right? Steph's been playing poor. He's in the Garden. Someone mentioned to me a Steph Curry first quarter points prop. I like that look. I think that makes plenty of sense tonight. As far as Malik Beasley goes here, Malik Beasley is coming off of a game with single-digit scoring. His points prop is 11.5. He's not missed that off of a single-digit scoring game this whole month. The thing is, if he's going to get to 12, it's going to be with 4 threes. So then we have to elevate the three-point prop for Malik Beasley to play plus 210. And it just became too much back and forth for me on the number. But if you wanted to maybe tonight find a Beasley, Steph Curry, chalky three-point shot parlay, I do not mind that look, depending on how you want to approach tonight's NBA board. We're going to talk to Brian Fonseca next year, get some of his picks on the NBA slate and some of his takeaways from the All-Star break action that we've been receiving. Next right here, it's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back to right here on SportsGrid. It's a Thursday night. It is Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you as we are now joined by Brian Fonseca. Does a lot of good stuff with Action Network and a couple of other spots there. Brian, how are you? It's a Thursday night of a little association action.
Yeah, pretty good slate. Knicks Warriors is about to start. We got Heat Nuggets finals rematch later, and that's particularly interesting to me because both teams are starting to sort of round into shape a little bit. And that's very exciting. So I like where the season is at right now in terms of the hierarchy. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I actually want to ask you before we get into tonight's games. I was this close to coming on here and giving out Celtics to win the East. And it's tough for me because I think somewhere deep down I hate this team, right? And if I'm going to bet them at plus 110, that probably shouldn't be the case, right? Here was going to be my sales pitch for betting them. 5 of the last 7 years, they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals. They will be the 1 seed. The 2 years they didn't make it, they were, I think, the 4 seed, 4 or 5, and then they were the 7 seed, and they ran into the only healthy series the Big Three in Brooklyn ever played. So basically, whenever they're supposed to be in the conference finals, they're there, and they're going to have home court advantage, and they will be booked at minus 250 or so in that series, if not more. But I pulled back. I see you laughing. What do you think about this whole Boston Celtics thing?
If the Heat are the 4 or 5, how do you feel about them facing the Celtics in round 2?
Here is the incredible thing. So I, again, went through this whole process, and I said, well, what about their challengers, right? Doc with the Bucks? Nope. Thibs with the Knicks? Nope. Bickerstaff with the Cavs? Nope. I don't trust any of them. Mm-mm. So if we're still worried about Missoula, right, it doesn't matter if the other team's weakness is also head coach.
Sure.
So that leaves 2 teams, the Sixers and the Heat. Well, the Sixers might be a round 1 exit if Embiid doesn't come back, which is unfortunate.
If they make
and
the playoffs,
the Sixers preseason.
If they make the playoffs, because they may not get out of the play-in if Joel Embiid's not fully right.
I would be surprised by that. I still think there's enough talent on that roster, but it is incredibly now not a guarantee. Fair. And I wrote, hold on, I'll read it to you.
This is great.
Here's what I wrote. Basically, here we go again with Miami being the most dangerous team in the conference to Boston. That is the exact last line of my note. It's incredible.
Listen, I said this on Green Dot Daily the other day, or yesterday actually. The Heat have the most playoff wins of the last 4 years with 38, the most series wins of the last 4 years with 8, and the most finals appearances of the last 4 years with 2. Two things happened during that time. Bam Adebayo improved, and Jimmy Butler went to Miami. Ever since they got there, they've been the winningest playoff duo basically in the NBA. The only thing they haven't done is win a title. But if you look at the one anomaly playoffs was the year after the bubble, and the Heat, Nuggets, Celtics, and Lakers, none of them won a single playoff series outside of Denver, and Denver didn't win a game in the second round. They were swept. So they were all fried from having the shortest offseason in NBA history. Other than that, the Heat have just always been there. They've been Eastern Conference Finals or Finals in a couple different cases. And if you look at the Celtics, I'll say this about the Celtics. I don't think betting them plus 110, by the way, I'm not like, there's no reason to do that right now. There's just none. I don't think there's going to come a point where there's such a lock that you have to take that, because I do believe every team to some degree takes after their star. And Jason Tatum in big spots, he has moments and then he has less than moments. Like he has, it's weird. I don't know. He's not really one of my favorite players to watch, is what I'll say. I think wearing the Kobe armband is corny in big games. And I do think that Kristaps Porzingis is kind of like the big swing piece here, because he actually gives the Heat problems.
I think so. Miami is dangerous. And also the best part is that would be true if they weren't. Gosh, they're so incredible. Jimmy Butler is. I adore him. Yes. Also, I hate him, but I say that with all the love in my heart, right? Like, LeBron would spend, months and be like, he doesn't really care. But I actually feel like he always did. It's just there was a different level with the playoffs. Jimmy actually doesn't care. Like, that is the big... Jimmy actually doesn't care when it's December. And then they get out of the All-Star break. He's like, we're going to start winning now. And you notice it, right before the break, he was averaging 28, 9, and 6. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. He's like, I don't want to do the play-in again, probably. So then here they go. And then he's just winning games without him. He's getting in fights, which is good for him. But he's still in Fall Out Boy videos.
Hold on.
It's a whole thing.
The fight.
Go ahead.
The fight is the most important thing that happened to the Heat this season. 100%. I'm not even joking. As somebody who covers the hell out of boxing and mixed martial arts to a lesser degree, but a lot of boxing, I'm a proponent of fighting when it matters, when it's called for, when there's a purpose. And I think, sometimes it could be stupid, but that clearly did something for the Heat. And the main thing that happened there was after Jimmy Butler gets ejected, Bam has an amazing fourth quarter. Amazing fourth quarter. That if the Heat lose that game and Bam just goes in the tank after that, then the fight was for no reason. You could see Spo actually smirking as all that's going on. Also, this is why I respect that team so much, is because the way I would want my team to be if I had a favorite team would be the team you never want to play against in the playoffs.
No, it's again. So it's very interesting though, because one of these years they were the 1 seed too. They're not this
2 years
gimmicky. Ago. You know what I mean? They're not this gimmicky. Last year was crazy, but they're just they're always good. And so now when they end up the 4 seed, it's gonna be they're just a good basketball team. And of course they're a good basketball team. They have good basketball players on it. And I'll just say this because Brian and I'll get lost and then never talk about anything. But the whole Dame thing, I just hope the rest of the league realize how dumb they are for how they let that play out. Even though I think he would have been better in Miami than he is in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to go back to something you said on Tatum. You know what? Look, there's a lot of great games tonight, but now I'm caught on this. And it's probably part of the reason why I didn't bet them ultimately to win the thing. If you look at every single Finals MVP since the last time Boston won a title, okay? Here are the guys that have won it. Kobe, Dirk, it's incredible. Kobe, Dirk, LeBron, Durant, Kawhi, Giannis, Steph, Jokic, and then Iguodala, which essentially is LeBron's, because they're like, you stood next to him the whole series, so you can have it.
Right.
All of those guys, right, are in the top 15 greatest players ever, and then it's Giannis and Jokic, who a lot of people think can get there. That's why people don't trust Tatum. Because Tatum is a top 11 player, 100%, but...
Right. All this love for the Celtics, why is Jason Tatum not an MVP candidate?
Because he's not as good as those guys, and that's okay. That's okay.
I've been campaigning that Luka Doncic should be top 3 MVP candidate. I think he can win the award. And he's nowhere near a 1 seed right now.
Right. That's the thing. This award isn't about that anymore. Especially for us, right? Because we're talking about betting on this. Brian and I are not debating on who we'd vote for, right? We're trying to help people figure out who to bet on. It doesn't matter if you at home would vote for the best team's best player. That's not what they do anymore. Jokic won it as a 6 seed. Embiid was, what, a 4 last
Russell
year?
Westbrook was a 6
works.
seed also. Russell Westbrook was a 6 seed also. There's been 2 6-seed MVPs in the last 7 years. And I think Tatum is good. I think he's a really good player. But also, I still have questions. He was not their best player in the NBA Finals, by the way. Jaylen Brown was when they lost to the Golden State Warriors.
He also got outplayed by Trae Young last year in the first round of the playoffs. But we don't like to talk about that. Brian, appreciate it as always. We'll be right back.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2
coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
All right, we're live to right here. It is a Thursday night on Sports Grid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Joining us from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, that would be NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Cap, how are you? It never stops, man.
Good to see you, Kevin. Yeah, we're at the Combine here. This is my 23rd NFL Combine. And we actually have a radio row here and a television row. It's actually kind of cool. They put one of these in here 4 years ago. And we've probably got half the league is represented with their media people. We've got about a dozen or so radio stations, got some TV networks. Pretty cool being here.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, though, Cap, it's interesting. And you know this better than anyone because you've been covering it for a while now. The Combine is not what it used to be from my perspective. You can speak to it better because it seems like there's a lot of importance put on pro days and certainly at the quarterback position, not everybody throws. What is the most important part of this process at this point, right? Think about these top three teams who are all thinking about quarterback. What are they valuing the most as they try and figure out who their guy is going to be?
All right, so Kevin, a couple things here. Right before we get into that, I do want to mention one of the things that you talk about changes. One of the things that this is sort of like popular right now, and this has just happened, that some teams that I've talked to, they're not even saying they're coaches. Like they're leaving it optional. If the coach doesn't want to come, spend time with his family or do work from the team's complex at home, like Washington coaches have the option of coming or not, because it's really a scouting. Remember, it's called the scouting combine. Titans coaches are pretty much not here, so that's the new thing is here. Some coaches are just not coming. Some staffs are not coming. So let's go to your question, and it's a good one. It's important. And what's the most important thing here? The medical testing is huge, because let's say, Kevin, a player had a surgery in the fall, okay? The clubs want to know where that guy's at. Another example is Cooper DeJean, who's by far the most intriguing player of this draft in terms of an athletic standpoint. He's going to go in the first round. Now, he had a fractured fibula. He had surgery for it in mid-November. He's not going to work out. He just started running full speed last week. His plan is to work out for teams in early April. But the key about him being here, Kevin, is clubs now can get the medical testing on him, see how that fractured fibula is healed. Is it really healed 100%? Like he says. So getting updated medical testing is absolutely huge. Number two, getting these interviews with these kids. They only get 15 minutes of it, though. And what clubs will do for quarterbacks is, Kevin, they're going to bring them to the board and they're going to throw some questions at them. And they want them to diagram plays and see how smart they are. They want to talk to running backs about protection and wide receivers for route running. And then after that, quite frankly, there are some ancillary stuff, but the other one is obviously the on-field testing. And by the way, today's the first day of on-field testing. We've got the linebackers are running as we speak, and the defensive linemen, the D-ends and D-tackles were done a couple hours ago.
So, Cap, as it pertains to this draft, and I know we're far out, but certainly these teams have a lot of information already on these kids. And it starts with Chicago. It appears, from what I see, that they are going to move on from Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're expecting? And does it seem like there's a clear front runner for Fields right now?
Yeah, I felt for 2 months it would be Caleb Williams. For Caleb Williams, Kevin, not to be the first-round pick, that first pick overall, they do have two firsts, obviously. We know they've got Carolina as the number one overall pick and their own. But for it not to be Caleb Williams, they would have to find something that they just didn't like, whether it's their interview with them, whether it's something that they just were not comfortable with, because he's so intriguing. I understand, Kevin, this last season was not as good as 2 years ago. I get that. That's what I've gotten from NFL people. But he's a dynamic passer, playmaker. He is today's NFL quarterback. When you and I were being brought up in this world for watching NFL football, you had to have this drop back passer, right? Not anymore. They want guys who could move, play off schedule, and boy, Williams could do that. And by the way, I'm fully expecting, barring some unforeseen circumstance, for the first three picks to be quarterbacks. Now, here's the next question, Kevin. is where does Jalen Daniels go, the outstanding quarterback from LSU?
Mm-hmm.
Does he go number 2? Is he going to be Washington's pick? Does Washington trade out of it? Because they have so many needs. They're a bad football team. They've got a new general manager, new head coach. So that's the intrigue of this. What's the pecking order for the quarterbacks as we go forward?
Well, let's stick with that idea. And with Washington and New England, there's been stuff swirling around. These teams are going to pick quarterback. They're going to listen and trade back, potentially. I feel like that's an odd spot because if you fall in love with the quarterback cap, you probably have to end up taking it. How reasonable do you think it is that these teams could be trading out?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback, is obviously one of the top 3 quarterbacks for this draft. That's not a question. But, okay, as we talk about the pecking order, if Daniels is ahead of him, and I do believe he is, how far back is May? Is he going to drop past the top 10? Is he going to be a top 20 pick? Is he a top 7 pick, top 5 pick? That's what teams are getting to get through here. They're going to go and look at not only the on the field workouts, but as you talked about, and it is important. If you don't work out here, you've got your pro day and private workouts. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to throw somewhere along the line before the draft. But that's the other thing about Drake May as the personnel people in the National Football League complete their evaluations. Most of it is in, by the way. It's just getting everybody together and making a final decision about of how you rank them. And you have to get through the pro day workouts and private workouts, and then you finalize your draft board.
Let's stick with one more prospect because then there's some other stuff I want to get to, Cap.
Sure.
That's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, when we think about positional value, right, we all know quarterback's number 1. But the amount of money that Justin Jefferson looks like he could get this offseason, maybe wide receiver will be labeled definitively number 2. How coveted is MHJ around the league? And do you feel he's a lock to be selected inside the top 5?
Yeah, I've had him going to Arizona in the top 4. Now, my understanding from talking to teams is that he's the best player available for this draft, Kevin, on your question. He would go number 1. If the Bears didn't need a quarterback, he's going at number 1. Simple as that. Yes, they've got DJ Moore. I don't see Darnell Mooney re-signing. He should be playing elsewhere. I'm told they really like Tyler Scott as a second-year receiver out of University of Cincinnati. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player for this draft, hands down. That's not questioned with any from the people I've spoken with. But again, this is a quarterback-driven league. Quarterbacks should go 1, 2, or 3. And Harrison's the next player. I mean, he has to be. And by the way, the deal, if it gets done, and the Vikings don't need to do it, but they should to take care of their best player. Remember, Tyreek Hill got $30 million a year. He should not take anything less than that. He's a phenomenal football player. Really had his first injury of note this past season, but he's an awesome football player. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer, by the way, someday if he continues on this trek, because he's been absolutely phenomenal. And you don't pass him. And getting back to Harrison Jr., there's zero weaknesses with this game. He is the best player for this draft.
So let me then ask you, Cap, with the wide receivers, T. Higgins franchise tagged.
Yeah.
Do you think the end result is him being moved on from by the Cincinnati Bengals?
You know, it's so funny. Duke Tobin, who's their personnel director, he basically has personnel control. He doesn't have the title of GM, but he's got the GM powers. He's, you might remember his dad, Bill Tobin, the famous Mel Kiper clip, who the heck is Mel Kiper, But Duke is about as straight line-ish as you get. He doesn't give you a whole lot. I just thought it was interesting. He left a little bit of a window for Higgins to be moved. And here's the deal. You really can't pay 2 wide receivers top of line money. So what am I alluding to here? Jamar Chase now could have his contract extended. He's played 3 years. He too is looking at $30 million a year or more. Okay, you can't pay 2 guys. You can't pay one guy $30 million a season, and the next guy $20 to $22 million at wide receiver. You just can't do that. So they did the smart thing. And by the way, they had a ton of cap space. So it's just the tag for him, Higgins, is just under $22 million. Now, again, he's one of the best number 2 receivers in the National Football League. He and Devontae Smith, who, quite frankly, if A.J. Brown wasn't out on the Eagles, he's at number 1. But it's kind of like the same thing. The Eagles have their situation with A.J. Brown making his coin. And Devontae Smith, by the way, is also up for an extension. So, yeah, it's a good point, Kevin. It's not easy. It's not easy when you're successful and you draft well, particularly at the wide receiver position. In one way or the other, you just know you can't pay 2 guys.
And I'll add to your point. I don't think you can do, round it up $60 million in wide receivers while having the highest paid quarterback in football. I just don't think it works that way.
Right.
Let me get you out on this, Cap. The running backs, a lot of big names, I will say, not highly, big names were let go recently, or we know will be moved on from. Any early reads on how this market could play out?
The Raiders really would like to have Josh Jacobs back, but they're not going to overpay. They've got leverage here. He's coming on a down year. It wasn't really his fault. They lost their head coach and their play caller, Josh McDaniels, the midway point. Barkley's not coming off a good season. Actually, if you look at the top 7 backs for free agency, only one guy had what you call a really good year, and that's DeAndre Swift from the Eagles, who had his best year rushing, and he was featured. And he had a great year, and he's a free agent for the first time in his career. But everyone else had a down year. Austin Eckler is probably going to be a third down back now for the rest of his career. You look at Barkley. Barkley had a down year. As I wrote for Pro Football Network this week, one personnel guy told me he would pay him half of what he was making last year and give him some upside. You can't pay guys just because of their name. This is a great fantasy football list, but it's not a great list in reality.
I think that is well said. It'll be really interesting to see what the going rate for those guys is, and Adam Kaplan will help us figure that out, as well as being live from the NFL Combine. Cap, appreciate it. As always, enjoy your time out there.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, great stuff as always there from Cap. Coming up next here on Game Time Decisions, Dave Sharapan stops by. We'll talk a little Final Four next. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2
coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Live, Sports Grid's Game Time decisions on a Thursday night. Dave Sharapan is in the mix. Consig. You know what? I just realized I could be breaking news to you right now, but I don't mind that. Consig doesn't mind being put on the spot.
What?
Did you know, Dave Sharapan, I will use this as a good time to remind people who might just be tuning in, you will not see me tomorrow. Dave and I usually hang out on Fridays. You will not see me on most Fridays because we got a little schedule change here. Dave Sharapan. Tomorrow will be Joe Ranieri, as he does Wednesdays. Weekend Game Time decisions, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, hosted by yours truly, right here on the Sports Grid Network.
The weekend is back.
The weekend. That's back. That's
right. People like the weekend show. We get a little loose on the weekend show. I remember back in the day, back in the roots, we did betting above the rim on the weekend. That was a lot of fun. That's good. Hey, perfect. Good news.
Now, the real question is, does Dave Sharapan do weekends?
Are you doing a weekend?
Uh-huh. Who else would do the weekend?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, yeah, we could do the weekends if we're doing it. Yeah, if we have enough arrangements and time and things like that for K-Dub. Are you nuts? Yeah.
I think we'll make something work there.
I have a feeling we might. Yeah.
Now let's start where we seemingly now always start, which was my hockey pick of the night. And
I love
listen,
the fact that you're
we got to
doing
be honest
hockey.
with the people.
I love it. What?
Folks.
What?
Oh, it looks good. Oh, it looks good. When I bet a prop, I can come with a lot of research for you, Consig. Right? If I bet a side, I'd also like to think I can. I'm honest with the people. If I'm on a total, it's vibes. It's just what feels right. It's what the eyes say to me. And it said over in Boston, Vegas. And this Bruins team is asking, do they want to hit it themselves? Number was 5.5, live total 7.5.
It's 3-0. I'm watching the game.
Looks
the Boston
good.
Bruins are
Looks
dominating play.
Looks good.
Dominating. This is good
Looks
news.
good.
Yeah. Listen.
Great news.
Stranger things have happened. Let's get this done before we get excited.
That's true.
Right?
That's
This
true.
could finish 4-1, and you're going to
we've
be
been there.
talking about it for 24 hours going, I think I should be done betting hockey. But I like the fact that you're involved in the hockey every time. No, seriously, this makes me excited because I've been told that I talk about the hockey too much. I don't believe so. I enjoy the hockey. There's a lot of good opportunity in
All
the hockey.
depends.
Yeah.
It all depends. Now, I do want to talk to you, though, about a market you and I actually have not really dabbled in. And I made a bet in
today
for the first time.
Uh-oh.
And it is the Final Four market.
Hello.
Now, I gotta tell you, Consig thought we were walking up to the porch with pizza. He's like, this kid's got bottles. Whoa. All right. Now we're having a good time. Let's party. I want to start with this, okay?
Yeah.
The gap that exists, okay? I don't want to use the top team. Let's use Duke. Duke is plus 450 to make a Final Four right now using FanDuel odds. Duke is plus 2,222 to 1 to win a national title. Okay. How do we figure out that gap that exists for people? Because there's going to be people who go, why am I betting plus 450? I'm betting 22 to 1. What is your thoughts on the Final Four market?
So, one, it's one of the hardest things to price without knowing the path. This was always one of those things that a couple of the guys, the Donatellos and the Picassos and the Michelangelos that I used to call the basketball, college basketball guru guys, the painters that did this, we would go back and forth going, there can't be that big of a gap. There has to be that big of a gap. Well, I don't know what the price is until I know the path. And you would argue back and forth. Listen, if you think a team can win it all, that means they're going to the Final Four. So it's not a bad idea. If you think you like the 22-1, you have to like the plus 475 on the team to get to the Final Four. So you find the price point that you can still live with yourself if they win it all, or bet them both. Just bet the other one for a little bit less, half a unit, 1 unit and a half a unit, different ideas. But I like the way you're thinking. Although, are you looking at this as an actual get the ticket cashed, or are we just looking at it, we get to an Elite Eight and we have opportunity?
So I think that depends. I hate doing this. I'll tell you in the break. I'm going to go spoiler free because I haven't said who the team is yet, and we're going to close with it, okay?
Yeah.
It depends, to me, and you'll agree, of course, it depends the range you want to play in, right? So I'll let people know we went longer than 10-1. So my thought is...
are you stepping back and hitting a shot from the logo here right now? Is this you doing that crossover dribble and going back?
I mean, we're not that far back. We might get way back. By the way, I got to tell you this.
I love what you
It's so funny. And at some point I will get better at this. But one of the easiest things, and Dave knows this, okay? Oh, you can see it, Consig. Don't put it up, but if you want to get an idea where I'm going, you can see it right there.
Love it.
But that's where I'm going.
Okay.
You know how you said that if certain wagers, right? If I came up to the window, you'd be like, hold on a minute, you're betting that? Just give me a second. You'd raise the price up, right?
Yeah.
It's always smart to shop around, but when I see a big disparity, I'm like, I just got to get involved. I'll tell people who it is. This is not the team I'm gonna give out in a minute. Dayton is 22-1 to make the Final Four on DraftKings and 38-1 on FanDuel. What does that mean? They took 4 bets on DraftKings and had to move it? Or the guys in FanDuel hate Dayton?
Or the guy at FanDuel went to Dayton or has a cousin there that really, and he likes them and he has them lower price. This is one of the most subjective markets because you're putting it up with a lot of unknown. If you get put in a bracket as the 3,
yes,
with the hardest path 1 and 2, and everybody's talking about it, including us, going, geez, if they were in the West region with this as the 1 and 2, they're going to the Final Four. So it's a lot of speculative buying. And then the other thing is nobody knows how to move this. There's no roadmap like NBA total today. You know, when you look at OKC and San Antonio and it's 238.5 and a bad guy comes in and plays you over, there's 2 numbers to go to, 240 and a half or 240. You move it up 2 points or 1.5 points. This, you may move it 10. I may move it up 10. There's so many different ways to go with it. I love you shopping in this market because I know you're putting in the work. And for the people out there watching, you need to put in the work to do yourself justice. If you know you can go get a tank of gas for $3.50 a gallon, but you're good with the convenience paying $5.50 a gallon, that's on you.
To Dave's point, and I think, so I will tell people this, and I mentioned Dayton. You guys can, because the team that I'm playing is comparable, is what I will say, right?
Okay.
I need a level of security to bet this without a bracket. But that's also why I'm not, listen, here's the deal, okay? Do I think UConn will win their region when the bracket comes out? Sure. But I'm not betting it. And then all of a sudden, I look at the bracket and I go, hold on a minute. Why is Kentucky their 7 seed? Why is Gonzaga their 11? Why is Michigan State their 8? Who booked this thing? Dave's told me to get over it. He knows I'll never get over it. These idiots last year put UConn as a 4 seed. The entire betting country had UConn tickets. My poor Iona Gales, who everybody thought would be dangerous with Pitino, had to play the 5th best team in college basketball going into the tournament on KenPom, who's a 4 seed. Bracket
Wasn't
matters.
Fair. Yeah.
Was not. But that's why, I'll be honest, I probably can't. I got to go beyond 5-1 if I'm going to do this right now. But I think to Dave's point, and these are always the interesting things. Look, it's not that I feel I have a major advantage over the books. I think it might be a level playing field right now because If you ask a couple odds makers, what's your St. Mary's number, their confidence level is tripled when you put the bracket in front of them. And that might be the same for us. Oh, did I just say St. Mary's? Guess what? That's not the team either. That's not the team either. That's not the team either.
That was a nice tease, though.
Range.
That was tease. That was nice work.
But they're in the range. But that's right, Dave. Everyone's confidence level is going to increase when the bracket gets dropped. So if you can find a couple shots here, then you can beat the number before we tip.
100%. This is when the playing field is most even. Listen, the guys that have been doing this for a long, long time, odds makers, book guys, all this other stuff, when you give them all of the pieces to the puzzle in a situation like this, they're going to come up with a better number most times, 9 times out of 10, than pretty much anyone else. Now, listen, they put up Kansas City to be a dog 3 times in a row in the NFL playoffs. They were wrong about that. It doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But they have the fallback on the rest of the people's bets. They can make mistakes once in a while. But you're absolutely right. If you're on a team right now, before the bracket comes out, I'll say 9 times out of 10, you're getting a better number now than you will when the bracket comes out. They're going to shorten them. They're not going to elongate them.
And I'll say, and this is the thing, so I played 1. I may play in
Is
between.
your team guaranteed to be in the tournament, yes or no?
Yep. Yes. And I will not touch a team that is not. I don't think I
Fair.
can do it. I could. So I'll use this, right? Where are they? The Johnnies, people think should be in, but maybe, okay? But I'm not betting them. But here's my point. They are 49 to 1 to make the Final Four, right?
Yeah. They're not.
The bracket gets announced.
Yeah.
They're not. No, they're not making the Final Four. But I'm just using a bubble team, right?
Right.
The bracket gets announced. What's the number? 30? You beat it, but it's still long.
Well, it depends. If they play UConn in the first round, it might be 80. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they can't. Yeah, I get what you're saying, right? If they get a bad draw, right?
Yeah.
They get a bad draw. That's how it goes. So no, I agree with you. I want to get a team that I feel good about. What's interesting, and the reason why I won't overexpose myself in this prior to the bracket, I'll play 1 to 2 more if I play any others.
Okay.
Okay. If I play any others, because what if I end up all just grabbing the same quadrant, right? And I can't, in some ways you're eating up a market, but in another you're only going to advance 1. So it gets interesting. You can get teams running head to head, right? And I don't know how I feel about that right now.
I can tell you right now, that'd be a good thing. If you get 2 teams in the Elite 8 playing each other, we're going to have a party. You can come to Vegas. I'll pick you up. I got a place to watch the game and everything. You better give the people this graphic because I ain't going to see you again till Saturday. And
that's right.
I ain't going to see you again till Saturday. I can't wait to hit this. What are you doing here?
I mean, you talking about you being in the mix Saturday? Or are you talking about you being
not this
in
Saturday?
The Final Four?
I cannot be in the mix Saturday. Not this Saturday.
Sunday?
I've already made. I just got a surprise commitment. Who is your team?
We'll tell them on the other side. There's going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Kevin Walsh, Game Time Decisions. We close it out on a Thursday night. Up next will be In-Game Live, so make sure you keep it right here on SportsGrid. Before we get to the best bet, we'll start with a thank you. I've been told I don't thank my producers enough. I find that to be a bit silly, but you don't know all the machinations behind the scenes here. Myself, Chris Kofsky, and Joe Frizo, at least one, if not all three of us, have been here for all of these Game Time Decisions. And our boy Joe is making it happen mornings exclusive. So the early line gets a gift. We say a goodbye for now. And I appreciate everything that Joe Frizo has done with this show. Myself, Chris Kofsky, and a bunch of others will continue to bring you a Game Time Decisions. But again, this show admittedly does not get off the ground without Joe, and I appreciate it immensely. And I would also appreciate if the San Diego State Aztecs made the Final Four and cashed a nice little 16-1 ticket. San Diego State, how about box one? What does everybody want? Experience. I mean, this was a winning wager last year for a team that played in the national championship game. They returned three key players, including the most important, Jadion Ledee. And he is a 20-point-per-game scorer who last year in the national championship game against UConn came off the bench. He is now their best player. Last year's best player was Matt Bradley, and respectfully is nowhere near as impactful as Ledee. Bradley was averaging under 13 points per game. I actually had a number of bad games, Bradley, in the NCAA tournament, and they still pushed forward regardless. San Diego State is 16-1 and is projected on the 4 line. The only team, projected 4 or better, that is even 10-1 you can find would be the Baylor Bears. Everybody else is underneath this number, and we're getting 16-1. The Mountain West Conference has this year. This team is battle-tested, and they are unbeaten outside of Quad 1. So if they're in a mismatch against a team that's not on their level in the opening round, in a 4 matchup against a 13, fantastic. What if the second round they see a 12 seed? Fantastic. Let's get San Diego State on the board at 16-1. Kevin Walsh will see you on Game Time Decisions this weekend, Saturday, 11 a.m.